Hello and welcome to the Morning Serve, brought to you by Canadian Club. I'm Nick McArdle and John Millman is here. On today's show, we're going to be talking about the chances of the Aussie men and women, and also some comments made in the lead-up to the tournament by Novak Djokovic. But let's start by talking about Alex de Minaur. Johnny, first round, he was going to have Matteo Berrettini, no longer. Is that a help or a hindrance? Because you do set yourself for your first round opponent, don't you?
Look, I think when he woke up and saw the news that Matteo Berrettini had pulled out, I think he'll be pretty happy. Matteo Berrettini, he's made the finals of Wimbledon before. He's a very big-time player. Yes, he has had a few injuries. We saw him finish the year at Davis Cup. He wasn't quite fit and obviously not fit to play here. I think he's happy with that. He's drawn Mackenzie McDonald, the lucky loser now. Mackenzie's always been a mainstay in the top 100, so he knows his way around a tennis court, so no disrespect to Mackenzie whatsoever. But he is getting a little bit older, and the key thing for Alex here is they have similar game styles. And I think Alex, obviously, if you look at his world rank, does it that little bit better. So I think good news for Alex, and hopefully starts off the tournament in impressive fashion.
What sort of form do you think he's in when you think about his progression through the United Cup?
I think pretty good. He was a little bit disappointed by his own admission, especially on the serve against Casper Ruud, but he righted those wrongs against up-and-coming Chechen player in Jakub Menšik, and then went on to beat Herbert Hurkacz, who's always a tough player. Even though he's coming back from injury, Hurkacz looked really good and one to watch for, actually, over this Australian Open. So I think Alex is looking good. I think he's looking stronger. I saw him actually at lunch a couple of days ago in a singlet, and I was impressed. He's got some guns, has he? He's been working hard, looking to hit a bigger ball because he wants to match it with Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner.
Yeah, and, well, wants to get past a Grand Slam quarterfinal, which he hasn't managed to do so far. And that leads us to the question, how far can he go in 2026?
I think the draw's been a little bit unkind. You know, he's got Bublik in the round of 16 if he gets there, and the seeds are projected to work out that way. And Bublik's a bit of a firecracker. You don't know what to expect with him. A joker in the pack, so to speak. I think he can beat Bublik. The tough thing is that quarterfinals. He's up against Carlos Alcaraz. Look, he hasn't been able to get Carlos's number just yet. That'll be the test. If he can get through that, then he can make a really deep run. But quarterfinals, that's where he's going to have his work cut out.
That would be a massive quarterfinal if he gets there, something to keep an eye on over the next week. Jordan Thompson, seeded here last year, not this year. He's had his injury issues. Can he get back to his best?
Top player, Jordan Thompson, on his day. Really unfortunate with the injury, so he was starting to play in some career best form. He's got Marinko Matosevic back in the coach's box. I think that really helps. They stopped working with each other midway through last year, and that coincided with a loss of a bit of form, but also those injury clouds coming in. I think if he can get his body right, there's no doubt in my mind Jordan Thompson can climb up those rankings once more. We know how good he is, not just on the singles court, but the doubles court too. You've got to remember, the guy got to the top of the game in the doubles and is a Grand Slam champion on the doubles court. So I think if he's fit, he can get back into it.
Alex Vukic is another one we've been keeping an eye on. Did okay in Adelaide. There were some good signs from the 29-year-old. Can he make a bit of a run here?
Look, and I like his first round matchup, but that second round is the one I have my eye on, and that's against Tommy Paul. He was really impressive at the Adelaide International, was serving particularly well, and he's hitting his forehand with his patterns a lot better. He's been working on that inside-out forehand, and I think it's actually been really effective. It sets up his favourite inside-in go-to forehand. The tough thing for him is second round he's projected to play Tommy Paul. Now, the American beat him in relatively convincing fashion in Adelaide. So he's got a lot of work to do to turn those tables.
And a couple more that I think that all Aussies want to see do well because they're likeable guys, and Rinky Hijikata is one of them, and Alexei Popyrin, of course.
Yeah, they're both great players, both really good boys. I think Rinky was in particularly good form, both in Brisbane and Adelaide. And a lot of people don't know this, but I'll give you the inside scoop. He was actually a little bit unwell in those two tournaments.
Right.
He's backfiring in all cylinders, and I think that's a real testament to his character that, you know, he can go and not be feeling it 100%, but still get the results. I actually think he's got a bit of an opening in the draw, projected to play, I think, Benny Shelton in that third round. So up until then, I really like his chances to you know, make inroads in those first few rounds. Alexei Popyrin, we're really waiting for, you know, that big match for him. He's done it here out on JCA, actually, against Taylor Fritz in the past. He's a Masters winner. He won in last year in Toronto. So he knows how to win those really big tournaments, or 2 years ago, I should say, in Toronto. He knows how to win those really big tournaments. Can he do it at the Australian Open? I think that's the question on everyone's lips.
What about for the women? So Talia Gibson, already a good start with a win over Anna Blinkova.
I love that win for Talia. I actually think she flies under the radar. She's young, and I think she's on the up, but sometimes gets overshadowed by young Emerson Jones and Maya Joint. I think she's destined for the top 100 this year, and that win against Blinkova was so impressive. One other thing I really like about Talia Gibson is the coaching choice she's made for this season in 2026. Jared Bunt, he predominantly coached down at the Gold Coast. He's now in the Brisbane team, and I think he's going to do really good things. Jared Bunt's a guy that brings a lot of calm to that player's box, and I think, you know, when you're climbing up and doing first, like breaking into the top 100 for the first time or making a run at a Grand Slam, he's one you want in your corner.
You mentioned Emerson Jones, 17 years old. Now she gets tagged with, you know, the next big thing for Australian tennis. It's a heavy tag to carry. What should her goal be for 2026? A
lot of pressure on young Emerson Jones. Only 17 years old, like you touched on. Comes from sporting pedigree, doesn't she? Her mum, Loretta Harrop, a silver medalist at the Olympic Games in triathlon. She is such a good athlete, is Emerson Jones. I think a big win for her is just to establish herself on that women's tour and break through to the top 100. And once she does that, and once she gets that feeling that she belongs, that's when we're going to see great things from Emerson.
And she plays Victoria Mboko, this other big boom teenager from Canada. She's 19. She's got a couple of years on Emerson, so she made the final in Adelaide. Big raps on Victoria Mboko.
And broke through at the end of last year on the hard courts in Montreal. She really came out of nowhere, and I got to see her up close and personal in Adelaide when she made that finals run. So impressive. Not just the way she plays, but the way she is composed on the tennis court. You know, I think this is such an exciting one for fans because we get to see two of the brightest prospects playing against each other first round here at Melbourne Park. I really hope the fans can get behind Emerson, though.
And if you want to feel old, just look at women's tennis at the moment because the woman who beats Victoria Mboko in the Adelaide final was Mira Andreeva, 18 years old. Now, she's the one. She, in terms of teenagers at the moment, she is the one.
Yeah, 15 years old. She was actually playing here runner-up at the Australian Open Juniors. That year she goes on and does things on the women's tour. So she's really been around for a few years. I think we forget how young she is. 18 years old. She's been the semi-finalist at Grand Slam level. For me, in 2026, whether it's at the Australian Open or one of these other Grand Slams, I'm going to call it right now. She makes her breakthrough and she wins one of these ones.
I certainly hope so because she is unbelievable and certainly in good form at the moment. Novak Djokovic, a lot of focus on him. Can he get back to his absolute best? In the press conference a couple of days ago, he said, just not feeling like I've got the juice at the moment. What did you make of all of that?
Look, is he playing games? I don't know. You know, Novak, he's a wily competitor. He's the greatest to ever do it, most likely. I'm sure I would have made a few Nole fans pretty happy by saying that, but he's unbelievable. I don't think you ever write off a champion, but if we are to take his word serious, I think that's worrying times. You know, he is getting a bit older, and these guys are so physical. The game's slowed down in terms of court speed, so I think you have to be firing on all cylinders physically to really compete against them. Maybe we'll see Novak be really aggressive. We saw him do that a few years ago when he had that ab injury. He was super aggressive. I remember a match in particular playing against Alex de Minaur where he shortened the points and wiped him off the court, really. I think if he is feeling it in the legs, I think we might see that game style. It's one that I'm really looking forward to watch to see if he does adopt, that really aggressive mindset. If he does, he can go, really deep.
So he's been out and about since he got here a few days ago, and the crowds here have just absolutely adored, on the players' balcony and that sort of thing. It's been, worship, godlike stuff. The opening week, I say crowds, they've been record crowds over the past few days, even before the tournament starts. They've labelled it opening week. What have you made of all of that? It's like the party comes early.
Yeah, I think it is, and I think, the footwork does the talking here, and what the crowds and the feet we've gotten through the gates is incredible. Incredible numbers. It really looks like, to me, that opening week is here to stay. And the Australian Open, well, it's a 3-week event now.
So Roger Federer has been part of that opening week. Canadian club crush time now. The big question is, from what you've seen over the past couple of days, if Roger was to decide to go back on tour, could he mix it? How far could he go in a Grand Slam?
First of all, I have a Canadian club crush on Roger Federer. I love the guy. Mate, he just brings in the crowds, doesn't he? He still moves the needle in a massive way. They absolutely love him. For me, one of the greatest sporting heroes of this generation, one of the icons. I think he could actually make at least a quarterfinal run. And I say that because the person who I liken his game most to in the modern day era, or in this generation, or the current day players, is Grigor Dimitrov. And we saw, before he actually tore that pec muscle at Wimbledon, he was taking it to a Jannik Sinner. What Roger does, he brings in a variety that a lot of these younger players haven't seen before. You know, that's being lost because these court speeds are so slow and it's become so physical. Roger brings that variety, and don't think I wasn't noticing Casper, that tie-break that Roger played. Jeez, he looked good when he beat Casper Ruud in that 7-point buster.
He absolutely turned back the clock, and didn't the crowd? They just loved it.
Yeah.
It was like turning back the clock to 10 years ago.
I love it.
Absolutely brilliant. John Millman's going to be with us throughout the next fortnight. Look forward to your company as well. The Canadian Club Morning Serve. See you soon.
One World of Sports is your home of the Australian Open. From highlights of the best players, every magic Aussie moment, and the best expert analysis.
We'll have every nail-biting, heartwarming, and edge-of-your-seat point covered. Subscribing to Wide World of Sports on YouTube is a must for any tennis fan.